And welcome back to the Sports Wrap TV 38 WRWR. I'm your host, Leland Ragin, and alongside Craig Lawson, we're going to talk a little high school and college basketball right here in the local area, brought to you in part by Flint Energies. We want to thank the good people over at Flint Energies for being a big part of the show and a big contributor to the show right here on Middle Georgia's sports leader, TV 38 WRWR. Craig, a lot of basketball going on in high school basketball this past week. We had an opportunity. Looks like the picture is clearing a little bit in 5A, where Northside obviously faced Warner Robins a little bit earlier this week as well. Northside pulling out that big win in that game. But the picture is getting a little clear. Northside right now, they improved their record to 13-4 on the season. What are you thinking about Northside's basketball? Their prowess. They're doing it in football. Right. Now they're doing it again in basketball as well.
Northside always seems to have, they've been cranking out talent every year, and they've looked really good this year, especially since they've got the players from the football team over on the basketball team. They've really been rolling lately, and I like them to potentially win the region tournament the way they're playing right now.
They actually lost to Rutland High School earlier this year. Rutland playing very well, some good basketball as well. They lost to Rutland High School earlier this year because the guys were playing in the state semifinals, the other members of the basketball team, which they were missing, but they've got some good young talent on that team. Region 2, 5A looks like it's going to be, I guess it's 2B 5A, I think, the way they have it set up, with Jones County, Holco, and Warner Robins in it. Everybody else is pretty much down right now. Jones County 8-8, Warner Robins I believe is 5-6 on the season. 8-9 is Holco. This not a good region for baskotball right now.
Well, it's good if you're Northside because, you know, the way that they've been playing, the way they've been rolling, and like you said, the other teams are down, so it's just bodes well for Northside to potentially take the region tournament and have some momentum heading into the playoffs.
Well, we had some big games, obviously, this past week. Central High School beat Peach County High School 51-48 earlier this week. That was for anybody that went to go see that game, that was an outstanding game and an outstanding performance by those two teams. And two teams that have been known historically for their basketball programs in Peach County and Central High School. Rutland High School, the Hurricanes at Rutland also this past Tuesday had a chance. They had a tough challenge versus Baldwin County High School. Baldwin County, Rutland wins that game 57-53. But in that game, Rutland High School starts 2 of 16 shooting.
Not a good start.
Not a good start at all. They couldn't seem to, on their home court, they couldn't get things going. But then all of a sudden, Jalen J.B. Tyson had an opportunity to get the ball rolling with some nice shots later on, starting out the second half, and some getting to the basket as well, some free throws. God gave him an opportunity to get some things going. Then, I think earlier this week, we had Veterans High School had played Perry. Veterans played Perry in that matchup. Obviously, Perry beats Veterans 52-49. Again, in another matchup, Perry High School has been, and guys, I'm a Perry High School graduate alum. It's disappointing for me right now to see Perry High School basketball be down, because when I was at Perry High in the years after that with the Kawaki Thomases, the Eric Richardsons, the Tavares Green, those guys, Ken Sykes, we were competing for state championships each and every year, and now you're talking about they're really down this year with a really tough record.
Yeah, and you know, they've had guys even recently like Casey Hayward, and then his brother, who's also named Casey Hayward. One of them plays for the Green Bay Packers now, and you know, both really good players. And you know, but you know, you have down years sometimes in high school basketball, and I have confidence their program will get back up there eventually. You know, we got veterans coming in. So the way they're zoning it, you know, you're going to lose some of your players to veterans who has, you know, veterans have some good players. So, you know, it's kind of tough when you're dealing with those type of rezoning issues.
Well, right now in Region 2, Class 4A, Rutland sits atop Region 2, Class 4A at 13-2 on the season, 6-1 in region play. Westside 13-5. And guys, I'll tell you right now, if it came down to obviously a region tiebreak right now, Westside would take that battle, because during the matchup, head-to-head matchup this past about a week and a half ago, Westside just demolished Rutland by 22 points on Rutland's home court. So that was obviously a tough loss. Baldwin County sitting in third place, 12-4 with a 5-2 region record. Perry High nestled in fourth place. Obviously, that would get them into the tournament. 10-6, 4-3. Veterans 7-6, and then you've got obviously Mary Persons rounding out the bottom. And Mary Persons had an opportunity also. We've got a little footage for you of the Mary Persons versus Veterans game. That was a tough game for Mary Persons. Mary Persons has been historically, I think they won the region last year in basketball, and now they're 1-12 on the season. Tough year for them.
Yeah, you know, we were talking to our producer Brad, who's a Mary Persons graduate, and talking about the talent that they've recently put out. And again, it's just, you know, down year for the Bulldogs, and like I said, we all have confidence in them building their programs back up eventually. It's just you know, just a down year.
Yep, down year. Again, this past week, Northside beat Turner County 98-77. Taylor County beats Crawford County 83-68. And Warner Robins in men's action beats Dodge County 71-65. Let's get a little rundown from what the girls got going on.
Yeah, I got a few girls' scores I'm going to go over here. Peach County and Central also played in women's. Peach County was victorious, though, by a score of 54-41. And then Rutland tops Baldwin County 42-35. Mary Persons 44-38 over West Lawrence, and then Dodge County tops the Demons of Warner Robins 57-43. So those are some of the scores in girls basketball from around the region.
Yeah, and we've got some great basketball from the Middle Georgia area as well going on here at not just Mercer, but Middle Georgia Technical College and Central Georgia Technical College. The Titans and the Cougars and Lady Cougars been in action this past week. I got an opportunity, obviously, to catch up with Coach Bobby Brown over at Middle Georgia Technical College. The Titans, who are riding a 5-game win streak after they played Chat State, and to finish off a 5-game win streak to improve now to 11-8. Here's what Coach Brown had to say. Coach, you guys 10-8 right now. You've been on a nice little win streak. This streak kind of kicked off a little bit with your beating Macon State College. So give us a little bit of insight on how that felt.
Well, it felt great to get out of there with a win because that's a tough team. They came out and shot the ball very well, played us very, very tough. I think they had us down by 10 at one point, and we had to claw our way back and come out there with a victory. But starting the week off with a win and starting the second half of the season off with a win was a great thing for us, and we were appreciative to get that victory.
Slow start to the season, but you kind of got the ball rolling right now. Again, on a nice little win streak. You obviously go and beat over this weekend Georgia Northwestern. Give us a little insight. You've got Brian, your big guy in the middle, who's kind of really been stepping his game up.
Yeah, we got 2 conference wins this week, put us in first place in the conference. That was a great thing to do. Dwayne didn't have a good game on Friday. He fouled out of that game, and so on Saturday he told me, he said he won't come and play, and he came and he put up some big numbers. I think he had like 19 points and 16 rebounds, so he played tremendously well. But we've been getting tremendous performance from some of our other supporting cast. D'Amico Rozier from Dublin High School has started coming up very, very big. On Saturday he had a double-double. Also he had I think 18 points and 10 assists. And so that was huge for us. And then we had Marcus Walker from Hancock Central in Sparta, Georgia, knocked down 18 points for us. And he shot very well. I think he had 4 3-pointers in that game, as well as we got some good performance from John Marine, who is from Albany, Georgia. So we had great production from our guys, and they're really starting to gel. And it's really beginning to be fun right now.
All right, that was Coach Bobby Brown, men's head basketball coach over at Middle Georgia Technical College. Again, Middle Georgia Tech, Central Georgia Tech are merging. Merger will be finalized July 1st, so it'll be one campus, one college in 2 locations, North and South Campus at Central Georgia Technical College. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back right here, do a little high school recruiting, talk about that. And we're going to also, but first we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. And a few snubs on this year's Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Right. And we'll talk a little bit about Lance Armstrong joining us as well. We'll be Brandon Evans. We'll do a 3-man team here, right here on the Sports Wrap, TV 38, WRWR. We'll be back.
Wait, what?
As quarterback Briar Van Brunt hits wide receiver Chris Vick.
And welcome back to the Sports Wrap, TV 38 WRWR. I'm your host, Leland Ragin, and sitting here in the nice Ashley Furniture Studios right here at WRWR, Brandon Evans and Craig Lawson. And we're going to talk a little bit about some snubs and whether or not there should have been someone that got elected in by the Baseball Writers Association. No one gets voted in for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Well, it's really not Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. It's just the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And they've got a big ceremony set up for July 28th. But, I mean, all they did is the Veterans Committee, they did induct 3. They inducted Jacob, I can't remember his name, who used to be owner of the Yankees.
Right.
You had him. You had Deacon White, a 1900s player,
Right.
and Hank O'Day, who was an umpire.
Right.
That's all they nominated. They brought in. This is a weird situation, but one of our guys here from Georgia, well, not from Georgia, but played for our Atlanta Braves, and who was a 2-time MVP. Dale Murphy was on that ballot, his 15th year on the ballot, had an opportunity to make it in. This was his last shot to get voted in, other than with the Veterans Committee. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's good to be back here in the man cave with you guys, and I'm a little disappointed that they didn't, and the whole reason is because of this whole steroid era thing. That's really the big reason why they're just kind of lumping everybody in, even people that weren't considered as part of the steroid era, like Dale Murphy, like Craig Biggio, like Jack Morris. But the guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palomero, they're ruining it for the rest of them, and I think it's very disappointing. Dale Murphy might not have made it anyways, but he definitely had those 2 MVP seasons. It would have, as an Atlanta native, I would have liked to have seen Murph get in there. But right now, I think that it's guilty by association. If you played in the same 2 decades of the steroid era, these writers right now are being really stingy about it.
Well, here's my thing, and Craig, I'll direct this question to you. Dale Murphy, 265 lifetime batting average, 398 home runs, but he had a stretch, 82 and 83. He won the league MVP. He was the National League MVP in those 2 years, and from 81 to 90, this guy over 10-year stretch, averaged 30 home runs, batted 285, and hit over 100 RBI. Does that not deserve? He was one of the most feared hitters in baseball at that time. Does that not warrant him getting into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame?
I really think with the longevity of his career, he's a guy that you would like to see get in there, even if you're not an Atlanta Braves fan, which we are. And just the way that he was able to be so consistent for over a decade, and maybe his numbers don't necessarily stack up to the top of the top, but I think he's good enough, so close to that 400 home run club. And I really think that he's a player that does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. He's just a little bit better. They always say it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of the very good, but I really think he's just above that very good.
Right,
I think
very good for a long time does not equal great.
Right, that's true, and that's the argument. But I would still like to see him get in. I understand why people don't vote for him, but I think he deserves to get in.
But I mean, to me, it's just it hurts Major League Baseball to not have this ceremony that is Cooperstown, the big Major League or Baseball Hall of Fame event, where you don't have anyone going in. I like the way the NFL does it, where they have a minimum number of players that would go in and a maximum number of players that can get elected in. And the thing I like is you had guys like Art Monk that when he left the game, he was, he owned every single wide receiver record that was until Jerry Rice came along.
Right.
You've got right now, with all these quarterbacks throwing for over 5,000 yards, those same records that guys like Joe Montana would be minuscule compared to some of the numbers that maybe even a Matthew Stafford may have looking in years forward, or Tom Brady may have. It concerns me. Different eras. I mean, guys.
It's hard to compare eras.
It's hard to compare. Think about this. Lynn Swann would have never, ever, if Lynn Swann played in today's football with 6,800 yards receiving and 42 touchdowns, he would have never made it into the NFL Hall of Fame.
Right.
Never happened. But
he was still a great player, though. In his era, he was a great player.
And the same thing with
and
Murph.
he had the catch that were on top of the guy in the Dallas Cowboys.
Right. But same thing with Murph. I mean, Dale Murphy was recognized as one of the best players the best player in the National League 2 years in a row, and was one of the best players. He was a 7-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glove winner, 4-time Silver Slugger. Those are some numbers that you just can't overlook. I mean, I know that last couple of years he spent in Philly hurt him real bad, but it is what it is. Maybe we'll see an opportunity here coming up soon for Dale Murphy to get in, because members of that Veterans Committee right now are Don Sutton and Phil Necro. They're on that Veterans Committee. So the one thing Murph has going in his favor right now is that Dale Murphy has a couple of Braves that he has to kind of carry that torch for him in the room when he's not there. All right. Next thing, we'll move on from the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame and no one getting in to how about the Hall of Shame in Lance Armstrong basically coming out and admitting on Oprah Winfrey's show this past Thursday that he admitted now that he was doping, doing blood doping. Now the U.S. Postal Service, the U.S. government right now is actually coming after him for funds for fraud. This is going to open up a can of worms for him and his Live Strong organization.
Yeah, and Craig and I talked about this sitting on the couch yesterday on Patriot Sports, and we actually both kind of had a similar view. Rarely that this actually happens, but we had a similar view, kind of a utilitarian stance that, the fact that he lied, the fact that he cheated may not necessarily outweigh the millions, and I think $500 million that the Lance Armstrong Foundation for Cancer Research has become. So, the stance that I take right now is that, I feel bad for Lance because I know moving forward, this is just the tip of the iceberg right here. Moving forward, you're going to have lawsuits, you're going to have defamation lawsuits, you're going to have legal fees, you're going to have just all kinds of media backlash going on. And the way I look at it right now is that,
But how do you feel bad for a guy who basically every time someone came out and said he was doing what he actually was doing, he basically vehemently denied it, Craig.
And not only denied it, he attacked those people.
Exactly.
And attacked their character. He attacked them in court. And I think that's where the disconnect is going to come. Because you're right. I mean, we talked about it earlier. He did a lot of great things for cancer research. People put a lot of hope and a lot of just weight on his shoulders. And he really kind of carried that torch and raised a ton of money for cancer research. But the way that he attacked the people that accused him of doing the thing that he did. And the fact that, these people were hurt, because of him, and they're going to come after him with lawsuits now, I feel sure, So it's going to be a really tough pill to swallow. It's hard for me to feel bad for him, but I understand what Brandon is saying because he did do so much good. It's just he was kind of doing it in a dishonest way, I guess.
Yeah, I heard an interview on Soledad O'Brien's morning show earlier this week on CNN that literally they had another two-time, Tour de France winner on and from years back who was talking about, people should, feel bad for him and this, that, because he wasn't gaining an advantage because everybody in the sport was doing it.
That's an allegation. That's kind of like the baseball steroid era. If pitchers and batters are both on the juice, then it's not cheating. It's the same thing with cycling.
Right.
I think it comes down to the honesty issue, though, because you look at Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. People don't like them because they know they're lying. Andy Pettitte comes out and says, or Jason Giambi, you know what? Took steroids, my bad. And everybody's like, everybody was doing it. I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. And, nobody really talks about Jason Giambi and Eddie Pettitte.
People don't like liars.
Sammy Sosa forgot how to speak English. So, at the time when he was asked about it, I mean, again, guys, and in my eyes, Barry Bonds was an all-star before he left
he was a
the
Hall of
Pirates.
Famer before
he was a Hall of Famer before he left the Pirates. This guy was, during his career, was one of the best players. But you've got to look at it also in the fact that, his physical makeup did change, but like in the book Juice, where Jose Canseco came out and basically said everyone was doing 87% and 89% of Major League Baseball was doing it. Right. Then I'm seeing the cycling guy also talk about it earlier on the Soledad show. Right. Literally, she asked him, came out, she says, well, I mean, were you doing it? And he says, I didn't come here to talk about that. I can't, and
which means yes.
Right, and that's exactly what she said, which means yes. So you're saying that everybody was doing it, and he's saying it wasn't a gain advantage, and that's kind of what listen. I don't care what anybody says. I was a Roger Clemens guy. I love Clemens. I think Clemens deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
And he was a Hall of Famer too before that. But just
before
the back
he went to Toronto.
The back half of their careers.
Really started. They say he started when he left the Red Sox and went to Toronto.
Right, and that's with Barry Bonds. The back half of Clemens and Bonds' careers, just put asterisks by it. I mean, they still impressive what they were able to do, even though they were on steroids. But obviously they had some help.
All right, guys, coming up next right here on the Sports Wrap TV 38 WRWR. We're going to talk a little college football recruiting with my good friend Craig Lawson. We'll talk a little things and stuff going on, and also some different coaching hires and some flip-flopping going on with some players and coaches in college football. Coming up right here on your Middle Georgia Sports Leader, TV 38 WRWR. We'll be back. And welcome back to the Sports Wrap right here on TV 38 WRWR. I'm your host again, Leland Ragin, alongside Craig Lawson. And we're going to do talk about some college football recruiting, and got a lot of big news going on this week. A lot of changes going on in the decommits, commits, transfers. Coaches talking about, I'm going back to college. No, they get a raise and then they leave and go.
It's hard to keep up with, really.
It really is hard to keep up with. And
that's why we're here for y'all.
That's exactly why we're here for you guys. First things first, let's talk about the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles land former Oregon coach Chip Kelly after he had been courted by Cleveland and by the Eagles. He comes out about a week and a half ago and says, I'm going to go back to Oregon. Oregon goes out there, and Phil Knight, owner of Nike, who's an Oregon alum and big booster, decides he's going to help the school write another additional $1 million check to pay Chip Kelly. Chip goes back, gets a big raise, and then less than a week later, there he goes and takes flight, and he goes and leaves for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is an interesting situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, what is this going to mean personnel-wise for the Philadelphia Eagles? Are they going to keep Michael Vick, who everybody thought kind of had one foot out of the door? You know, he would be very conducive to Chip Kelly's style of offense, you know, that read option. And then, you know, with Oregon, what are you going to do? You're going to bring a new coach in? You know, are they going to try and sue Chip Kelly?
Well, here's the thing. They've already made a commitment. They already basically said when Chip Kelly, if he decided to have left, the offensive coordinator who was there in place was going to take over as the head coach. So they already know pretty much who's going to take over at Oregon.
Right. And then, again, I guess they'll be able, I don't know, will he step into Kelly's contract or will they restructure, you know, all that. I mean, they're probably not going to pay him the money they were paying Chip Kelly. He's going to have to earn that. So, I mean, if you're Oregon, you know, if you're Chip Kelly, I guess you see, you know, maybe you feel like you've accomplished all that you can at Oregon. You know, he didn't win a championship. He was on the cusp, you know. Maybe he just didn't feel like. But, he has a freshman quarterback in Mariota. You got DeAnthony Thomas, who's a sophomore this year. So he really has some talent to build with, but I guess he just wanted to take that next step and, you know, get to the NFL.
He just burned a lot of bridges up in the upper Northwest. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, and you don't make Phil Knight upset, the owner of Nike.
Right.
That's one thing you don't do here in the United States of America. Some other implications that could come out of that Chip Kelly situation is the fact that looks like Georgia defensive coordinator Todd Grantham could possibly be a candidate for that defensive coordinator position.
I've heard Grantham, and I've also heard Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator from Florida, are on their list of people that they would like to interview. You know, Grantham came from the Dallas Cowboys, so he's been in the NFL before. And, you know, it'd be very interesting for Georgia. Who would they go out and hire somebody? Would they promote from within? And, you know, especially with all the talent that Georgia's losing on defense this year, what is that going to mean? You know, if Grantham were to leave, are you going to stay with a 3-4, going to go back to a 4-3? You know, a lot of implications there. So it's going to be really interesting to follow this story.
Well, since you led to that, Big Kwame Gathers decides he's going to leave and take his talents to the NFL. Also looks like running back Ken Malcolm for the Georgia Bulldogs, looks like he's decided he's going to transfer. He's tired of being nuzzled. This guy was a 4-star recruit a few years ago coming out of Southwest DeKalb High School. He's now been dropped and demoted since the emergence of Gershel with Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall up at Georgia. He looks like he's going to be better served to go on somewhere else and play football. And the thing I like about it more than anything, it looks like Coach Mark Richt and the Georgia Bulldogs staff are going to release him from his commitment. He won't have to sit out. He'll be able to go play anywhere he wants to next year. That's a great thing and an honorable thing for Coach Richt. I like that.
And I really think that Coach Richt appreciates the work that Ken Malcolm's put in. You know, he almost transferred when he was buried in the depth chart behind Isaiah Kroll and Richard Samuel a few years ago.
And Harton and all those guys.
Right. And that leaves Georgia now, though. They've got Gershel, they got those two guys. They got A.J. Turman coming in as a freshman, and then you got Brendan Harton if he earns a scholarship again. He had one last year. We don't know if he's going to have one this year or not. So potentially only 3 scholarship running backs, which means that Georgia is going to have to go really hard after Alvin Kamara, the running back out of Norcross High School. Alabama's going really hard after him, but Georgia has his last visit. But he's going for the national championship celebration the weekend before, so Georgia's really going to put the full court press on to try and get Kamara, just so we can have depth at the running back position.
Well, the one thing that Georgia's going to have to contend with is the fact that Eddie Lacy has decided he's going to the NFL out of Alabama.
Right.
So that's going to leave Yeldon's going to need someone to spell him at Alabama. So that's going to hurt Georgia's options as far as.
Also, Alabama has, I believe, 3 running back recruits. Kid named Tenpenny, kid named Derrick Henry, who was committed to Georgia at one point, and then Tyron Jones, who is out of the Cobb County area, another Georgia player. So, is he going to go in and compete with all three of those guys? They're going to end up having a ton of depth at Alabama at running back regardless. So, maybe Georgia can throw that playing time pitch at him.
Well, I'll tell you something else. Somebody that's going to be, seems like they're going to get a little playing time and weren't able to do it at University of Georgia. Former quarterback and standout at Wilcox County High School, Nick Marshall. Right. Looks like he's headed to Auburn to play quarterback. And just give us a little insight. He actually went to Georgia. He left Wilcox County as a quarterback, but
came to Georgia as a defensive back, played special teams in 2011, and then was dismissed from the team. But the kid seemed really remorseful. It seemed like he went off to Garden City as junior college, but he played quarterback there, like he did in high school. Seemed really remorseful. He thought he actually might eventually come back to Georgia, but now Gus Malzahn is back in town at Auburn. He runs that spread option offense, and it's really conducive to an athlete like Nick Marshall who can throw the ball and who played quarterback last year. He said he would be playing quarterback at Auburn, so Georgia could potentially be playing two quarterbacks next year who used to be on Georgia's team in Nick Marshall at Auburn. Then you got Zach Mettenberger at LSU. So a strange development, but I wish the kid well, just not in the Georgia game.
Yeah, of course, exactly. And obviously, you have a situation where that's a perfect setup. A kid that got dismissed from a team, from a SEC team, went to a JUCO and transfers to Auburn. We saw the same thing with Cam Newton. Cam won the Heisman and they won a national championship. We don't know how that situation works for Gus, but hey, it looks like it may be okay. How about a on again, off again? On-again marriage for Demarcus Robinson of Peach County High School, who commits to Florida initially about a year ago, and decommits and commits to Clemson, then turns around and decommits to Clemson and commits back to Florida again.
Yeah, I think he actually started with Clemson, then he decommitted to Florida. And then he decommits from Florida back to Clemson, and now he's decommitted from Clemson back to Florida. And so, who knows? We think we're going to see this kid in orange and blue next year. And
what
great
a great
player.
addition! What a great addition for the for Will Muschamp and that staff down there. They're going to be getting a 6'4", 6'5" receiver that's got great hands, great route running, that can go up and catch anything thrown to him. That's going to be a great addition for this team, who is going to compete for an SEC East championship. I know a lot of people don't want to hear me say that, but they're going to compete for an SEC East championship, and that's just going to be a big, interesting situation. That's going to be interesting to see a lot of these Georgia talent. This guy's rated the 5th best wide receiver in all of high school football and the 48th player in the nation.
There were two guys that I was hoping to see Georgia get this year, and they didn't get either one. From Jaquay Williams out of Sandy Creek, who was at a prep school last year. He ended up going to Texas A&M. We thought he was going to come to Georgia, but because he was originally committed to Auburn, but then all that coaching stuff, so he jumped off of that, so we didn't get him. Very similar player to Demarcus Robinson, and I really wanted Robinson to be at Georgia, and they never really had a shot.
Would have been a good replacement for A.J. Green.
Absolutely.
I think it would have been at the University of Georgia. All right, guys, that's our college and football recruiting. We talked a little bit about any and everything that's going on around college football right now. Stick around. Coming up next, I'll do a segment called Inside the Falcons Locker Room. And the last segment of the show, we're going to bring back a good friend, Brandon Evans, where we'll do our NFL picks for the NFC and AFC championship game. Coming up right here on the Sports Wrap, TV 38. We'll be back.
What do Falcons do? Rise up!
And welcome back to the Sports Wrap, TV 38, WR. Guys, your Middle Georgia sports leader. You want to become a part of the discussion and be a part of the show, you can give us a call at 345-1500. That's 345-1500. Or you can hit us up on Twitter at Sports Wrap TV 38. That's at Sports Wrap TV 38. All right, as we do each and every Falcons home game, we do a segment inside the Falcons locker room, and this week was exciting. I had an opportunity to be at the Falcons game, the divisional playoff game where they faced the Seattle Seahawks, and yes, guys, I did pick the Atlanta Falcons to lose that game, and I think my prediction on that score was somewhere in the area 28-27 Seattle. I would have been right if only 30 seconds weren't left on the clock, but we got a chance to speak with Leroy Hill, former standout as well from Baldwin County and Middle Georgia, Clemson standout as well. We talked to him, Seattle Seahawks linebacker, and we also got a chance to talk to Jason Snelling, Dante Dante Robinson, and William Moore. Here's what they all had to say. Here with number 56, Seattle Seahawks linebacker and Baldwin County standout, obviously right there from Millersville, Georgia, Leroy Hill. Leroy, tough loss for you guys today, man. But when you look back on this season, this had to be, you guys have to look back at as a successful season, though.
Yeah, it was a good season, man. We had a hell of a team this year. You don't come, you know, I just finished up my 8th year, and you don't get many teams like this. You know what I'm saying? We felt we had the team to take it all the way in, you know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing. That's why it hurts so much, you know what I'm saying? But I'm proud of everybody this season, man. We fought everybody to the end, you know what I'm saying? There ain't one team out there that can really say they just, put hands on us or whatever. But I'm proud of the season, man, and, all these boys keep their head up.
Y'all's defense buckled down in the second half of this game. Y'all shut the Falcons down, went into the half. Went out in the half, y'all were down 20-0. Mm-hmm. They came out, you only allowed the Falcons, obviously, 10 more points in the second half. Give us a little insight. What adjustments should you guys make, obviously, to get yourselves back, obviously, for the defense to get the team back in?
Yeah, I mean, we really just got ourselves up, man. We kept to our game plan. We stuck with it. The first half, we sort of on an emotional wave, you know what I'm saying? The Falcons, they was at home, first playoff game, we took their best punch, you know what I'm saying? And they hit us hard, you feel me? But we stuck to our game plan for the most part. We just had a couple people getting out the gaps, a couple missed tackles, so we just clamped down on what we was already doing.
All right, well, there it is. Middle Georgia stand out again. Macon, Millersville, stand out Baldwin County, Leroy Hill, number 56. Clemson stand out as well.
That's what the game is all about. As far as being a defender, our goal is to stop them, and today we did. I guess we got the job done. Finally get that win and to be where we want to be, but we know this is just the first step to where we want to go. We got a big one next week. We got to get ready and make sure we get our rest and be ready to go next Sunday.
Here with the Atlanta Falcons running back number 44 and stand out from Virginia also, Jason Snell. And Jason, obviously, man, how does this feel, bro? You've been with the Falcons organization for a few years right now. Getting this monkey off your back, you're 0-3 under Mike Smith in the playoffs. How does this feel right now, this feeling going into the playoffs, getting ready to play for the NFC Championship game?
It feels great. I mean, just to see the guys, this team just continue to fight. All year we've had some games that came through. We've been in situations like this, and just to prevail again it's the makeup of this team, and I'm excited to get that win and still be here to celebrate. 31 seconds left in the game. They go down, they drive, they score, they take a 1-point lead. Were you guys on the sideline thinking deja vu all over again? Carolina Panthers, 27 seconds left. We know we got 2 timeouts left. We can go down and get it down there and probably get a field goal. Well, we're a team that learns from our past. Like I said, we've been there before. This year, our coach Smith, is always talking about finish and believing in ourselves, and that's been the makeup all year. So when that opportunity, we knew we had time on the clock. We always feel like we have an opportunity, and it happened again. All right, last question. How did that touchdown feel, man? I know it had to feel good going in, bro. Man, it feels great, to be able to come in, not knowing when your number's going to be called, to help contribute, and just to get in the end zone to help my team put points on the board. It's a great feeling for me. You have always been a contributor on this team and a stalwart. We thank you for everything you've done for this team, and we're going to root you guys on to a Super Bowl championship, okay? Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Here with Atlanta Falcons safety number 25, William Moore. Will, how, taking this all in from the time you came in from Missouri and everything else, how does this feel right now? You guys finally getting this monkey off your back, so to speak.
It's huge, man, especially for the fans. They well deserve it. I know the fans been on us about it. They deserve, the city deserve it, man, the organization. And since I came in, we've been an excellent ball club, man. You can't take nothing from the Falcons to say we were sorry or something like that, man. We've been great. Our record speaks for itself, every season. We just fall short in the playoffs. And if you look back, the results of who beat us, they go on the Super Bowl. So it was great for us to go out and get it this year, and I think we got something special this year. Were you guys thinking on the sideline, basically talking about looking back maybe at the Carolina Panthers game with 26 seconds left in the game, you guys drive all the way down back and get into a field goal position? Were you guys kind of thinking deja vu all over again? We've been here. That's what I said the whole time. Everybody was confident. It's like we never get down no matter what, and it's crazy to say because everybody's relaxed. And when Matt threw that pass to Harry, man, I knew we had something going. And like I said, we've been here, and Mr. Automatic, he's gonna make it every time. All right, that is William Moore. Man, we're glad to have you back, brother. Thank you so much. Be back. I love it, man. Rise up, baby. I'm here with Dante Robinson. Dante, how good does this feel, man? Right now, end of this season, y'all guys were 0-3 under Mike Smith, and then you come in and the people are doubting kind of what you guys have been doing.
How does this feel right now?
It's a great feeling, man, to get over this hump. We've been after one thing this entire year, and to go out and, get one step closer, it's a great feeling. We live by the motto, we're all we got, and we come in with the guys that we have in this locker room, and we go out and we battle every day. We never ever listened to what was going on outside. We knew this was a very hot team coming in. We knew how confident this team was coming in, but, we understand our ability, and we went out and finished, man, so it's a great feeling.
You guys came out in the first half and really basically came out and hit the bully in the mouth, so to speak,
right.
and shut these guys down in the first half. What was just kind of in y'all's minds, obviously, out there when y'all came out of to start the game out?
Well, just start fast. We wanted to come out and start fast, and that was in all three phases. And we did that. We played well enough where we built the lead. They never gave up. They kept fighting. They fought back. But at the end of the day, we made more plays than they did. So our thing was starting fast, and matching their intensity, and we got that done today.
All right, guys, Dante Robinson. All right, guys, that's our segment inside the Atlanta Falcons locker room. You guys, again, check us out on Sports Rap TV 38. That's at Sports Rap TV 38 on Twitter. And you can be a part of the discussion and part of the show by calling 345-1500. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with Brandon, Craig, and myself, and we'll do our NFL picks for the NFC and AFC Championship weekend right here on your Middle Georgia sports leader, TV 38 WRWR. We'll be back. And welcome back to the Sports Rap TV 38 WRWR. We're back here again inside the Ashley Studios, Ashley Furniture Studios here at TV 38 WRWR. Again, I'm your host, Leland Ragin, and we had an interesting week. We're going to do our segment we call our NFL Pick'em. We got the AFC and NFC Championship games going on this week. Our Atlanta Falcons, as you guys saw in the last segment, we had, I went into the locker room post-game, Falcons with a last-minute gasp, like they've been kind of doing all season long with these comebacks. It was reminiscent of the Carolina Panthers game where they had 27 seconds left in the game and drove down and kicked the game-winning field goal. This was an exciting week for Falcons, but just as much skepticism as people had with the Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks, there seems to be just as much skepticism with them facing the San Francisco 49ers, who demolished Green Bay 45 to.
Told y'all. I told y'all it was going to be a runaway.
Whoa. Y'all went 2-2 in your picks.
That's true.
I was 3-1.
That is true.
Enough said.
But Leland and I, or at least I was, the Broncos take a knee with 31 seconds, could have potentially drove down and kicked a field goal, and then the Falcons miss a field goal. Yeah. They iced themselves, or Pete Carroll de-iced the kicker. And then he goes and makes it. So, I mean,
if I was 6 foot tall, I'd be playing in the NFL.
But how about this? Poor coaching decisions from Pete Carroll in that game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're 9 minutes and 40 seconds left in the first half. You're on the 10-yard line, 4th and 1, and you don't kick a field goal.
Right.
And you're down 13-0 at that time.
Right.
And then going into the half, 21 seconds left on the clock. You try to run another play. Instead of spiking the ball, you're on the 20-yard line and then setting your team up for a field goal to go into the half 20-6 instead of 20-0. If either one of those things had happened and those poor coaching decisions weren't made,
right,
the field goal at the end wouldn't have even mattered. The Falcons would have had to actually score a touchdown to even tie the game up.
That's true. In hindsight's 20/20, but I think that'll definitely eat on Pete Carroll.
a whole bunch, and that team.
Yeah.
And the fact that he called a timeout right before the first kick, because Matt Bryant did miss the first one.
Well, he missed, and I'm going to say this.
And Pete Carroll tried to say he didn't call timeout.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. But you guys know this, and you know this more than anybody. I was right there. I'm literally 15 feet away from that kick. When they called the timeout, Matt Bryant actually stopped and then tried to continue his kick. He just basically kept, he looked like, should I follow through or not? He just said, well, I'm going to go ahead and follow through.
Get a practice
in.
Right.
He didn't it wasn't a fluid motion like it was on the second one. So he kind of stopped.
Hard to tell.
It was a tough decision. But he made the 49-yard field goal, which I still thought Falcons should have taken one more play, to maybe get another 4 or 5 yards. Because I was worried about a 49-yard field goal.
Yeah.
And everybody, as you guys can see in that inside the locker room clip that I did post-game, everybody on the field as well thought that, Arthur Blank was pacing the sideline, scratching his head. This was a Really, but it
Right here.
it was the monkey off the back.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of reminiscent of Steve Young, San Francisco 49ers beating the San Diego Chargers in the Super Bowl, and him telling somebody, get this monkey off my back. I think this is something that could propel the Atlanta Falcons into a different phase or level, but they might be without John Abraham this week.
Right, and it's it's a really good win for the city of Atlanta. It's been a while for this city. Have to put together a playoff run. We've had high hopes of it for a couple of years now. But you got Colin Kaepernick coming in next week as another. I mean, he just went off running the ball. So impressed with his athleticism.
181 yards rushing.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
NFL record.
Yeah, NFL record. So, without, if John Abraham's, if he's able to play, or is he going to be able to, no.
It's going to be. Because if he's 50-50, he could be a game-time decision. They could shoot him up, It's one of them things that he's a gamer. He might try to play.
They're going to need him, I think.
They need him so bad. They need him so bad.
They need to put pressure on the quarterback, but here's the problem. With the read option that they're running with Kaepernick right now, you've got to worry about a 1,500-yard running back in Frank Gore.
Right.
Getting the ball going up the middle. Then you've got to worry about a quarterback that had 181 yards rushing going around the edge. Then you've got to worry about him taking 2 steps back and hitting Randy Moss, Michael Crabtree, Vernon Davis, Delaney Walker, any of those guys hitting them.
He can throw it.
And he can throw it. The guy got drafted from Major League Baseball as a pitcher. He can chunk the ball.
Right.
And this is going to be a tough matchup, and they run that. Listen, they perplexed Green Bay last week. I'll admit I sat on this show and said Dom Capers was going to come up with something good. And one of my best buddies, Eric Walden, number 93 for the Green Bay Packers out of Dublin, Georgia, they made him look silly this past week. He kept biting in on this thing. It was just tough to see the way he just ripped his team up. And I'm worried like, heck, first time the Atlanta Falcons will ever host an NFC Championship game in Atlanta. This is going to be a tough matchup, guys.
Yeah, and they're going to see this pistol formation, which they don't have a lot of experience with. They're going to face another quarterback like they saw with Russell Wilson or like they saw with a Cam Newton earlier in the year, just a very athletic, can break, contain. That's why John Abraham's going to be so important. It's going to be these linebackers are going to have a QB spy on a lot. It's just going to really, Mike Nolan is going to have to dial up another great game for them to contain this offense. And Craig's talked about it. Their offensive line is something to be reckoned with.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Their offensive line is so good at getting that second level, getting on your linebackers. And, Frank Gore might not get touched till he's 4 yards down the field. And, he doesn't even really need that kind of blocking. But when you give a guy like that, plus they have depth at running back. They got Kendall Hunter, and they've got, we were talking about Oregon earlier, LaMichael James, the former Oregon back, who's actually starting to get some playing time now. Yeah, that's Anthony Davis. So they have a lot of depth at running back, a lot of guys they can bring in. And these formations that Harbaugh throws out there, we've got like this little pistol triangle with a twirl around. It's just so creative offensively. It's going to be tough for Mike Nolan.
All right, I want to get you guys' thoughts real quick. We need some your predictions on this game. Craig, what do you think the score is going to be on this game?
I picked Seattle last week to win, and the Falcons keep surprising me. I want the Falcons to keep winning, so I'm going to pick San Francisco because I feel like I'm always wrong. But I really do feel like San Francisco does have the better team. Maybe the Falcons will surprise me again, but I think San Francisco is going to win this game. I think they'll put up some points. I think it's going to be 28-17 victory. All
right. Well, I want to give mine, and then I'll let you give yours, obviously, Brandon.
Your logic is mind-boggling, but yeah.
Yeah. I actually think I'm like you. I believe that the San Francisco 49ers are just a better team on paper and on the field. I think they've got the best defense in the NFL right now, and they've got a very hard-to-defend offense. But I'm just like you. I want the Falcons to keep on winning, so I'm going to actually pick the Atlanta Falcons to pull this victory out. And I think it's going to be a tough – if they do win it, here's the thing, is the reason I say they win it if they do win it. The San Francisco 49ers this season are 1-4 in domes this year. They're 1-4 in domes. So I'm going to go with them becoming 1-5 in domes this year, playing our Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to pick them to beat our to lose to our Atlanta Falcons 20-17. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think we'll have to kick 2 or 3 field goals.
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Unfortunately, I think that San Francisco wins. I think the Falcons cover. They're a 4.5-point underdog. I think the Falcons cover, but I think they lose probably on a Akers field goal the way that they beat Seattle last week. I'm going to go ahead and say 28-26.
And here's the thing. How about the fact that you think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but you're talking about the fact that God, the little statement you made, I can't even remember now. I had a great.
Well, all the overs hit last weekend. I mean, every single game.
4.5. You said the
4.5 points is the spread. Yeah.
Well, listen, the Falcons. Anybody that knows anything about Vegas, you get 3 points just for.
So they're basically 7.5 point.
They're 7.5 point dogs right now
at a neutral field.
At a neutral field.
Yeah.
I mean, so you get 3 points just for being at home. So this is going to be an interesting.
I think the Falcons really like this underdog role. And I think one of the main matchups is going to be the Falcons' wide receivers against the defensive backs of San Francisco, and I think the Falcons wide receivers are better. Now, the X factor, in my opinion, is Tony Gonzalez versus these athletic linebackers, Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis. Are they going to be able to cover Tony Gonzalez? Is he going to be able to be open in those check down routes for Matt Ryan?
I think he will get in some space. I actually think Tony leads the team in receptions in this game because I don't think they're going to have time enough to get the ball out to those two wide receivers too good because listen, you got Alden Smith with 20.5 sacks this year on one side and Justin Smith on the other side with 18.5 sacks. Yeah. This is not going to be an easy task. These guys get after the quarterback, and it's going to be tough for our Atlanta Falcons.
Not to mention that the Falcons gave up I don't know how many yards and receptions to Zach Miller last week.
Right.
There's a lot better tight end coming in this week named Vernon Davis, so they're going to have to contend with that as well.
But he's not Kaepernick's boy. He's Allen Smith's guy. So, but now we got one more game to pick before we get out of here and wrap this show up. New England Patriots, Baltimore Ravens. Ravens will travel outdoors and up to New England. We talked about this, and I made a statement last week how bad Peyton Manning was outdoors in 40-degree or below weather. He has not, historically, he has been horrible.
0-4.
Do you realize that Peyton Manning has been 8 one-and-dones in he is 7-9 in his NFL career in the playoffs. 7-9 is his record in the playoffs. Everybody talks about him being this elite guy. But he doesn't seem to get it done in the playoffs. And when you got Tom Brady sitting there with 17 wins in the playoffs in 8 seasons, that's pretty good.
I'll defend that. Peyton Manning's played on a garbage team. We saw how bad the Colts were without him. They're awful. And he was very basically put that team. Well, they have Andrew Luck now. Andrew Luck, I think, is going to be a great player. We saw how bad they were without him. We've seen the Patriots without Tom Brady. They won 11 games with Matt Castle as their quarterback. You know, they've got Bill Belichick. And we don't want to get – we could talk.
We definitely could talk about
5 segments about
because
that. So
you're going to tell me some of those running backs and wide receivers, Deion Branch and these guys that he's pulled out of nowhere on this team, that Tom Brady, Wes Welker was a cast-off in Miami.
No, Wes Welker was a good player in Miami.
But he was a cast-off in Miami.
Yeah, they didn't know how to use him, but he was good. He was good before he got there. You get Randy Moss and Dante Stallworth in there. And Tom Brady is a Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong. I think Peyton Manning is the best quarterback of all time. Sunday, he had some bad luck. The first interception, the pick six, I don't think it was his fault. His receiver in the shoulder pads bounced up. Now, the last interception, that was awful. You know, he rolled out to his right, threw back across his body. You know, you just can't do that, and I think that's on him. And he has had some struggles in the playoffs. But, this is his first year with the Broncos. He's just now, getting acquainted with his team.
And he wore the gloves, which I have never seen him do. I've never seen him wear gloves on both hands in any situation. But, again, recognize he played, 15 years in a dome. Inside, where he played at least half of his games in a dome. So, with that being said, Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis, they advance on, they move on, they play. This is going to be another historic matchup between two legendary ball players. And with everything being what it is, Rob Gronkowski is out. He's out, broke that forearm again in this last game. This is going to be an interesting matchup. We're going to go ahead and get our scores now because we're on short time frame right now. I'm going to go ahead and give my pick right now. I'm picking the Baltimore Ravens to win this game in a tough, hard-fought game, 28-27, somewhere in the area what we saw with the Falcons this past week, and them winning it with a field goal.
I'm picking the Ravens as well because Gronkowski is out. And I think that with Ray Lewis, the way that they fought through and won at Denver, I think that they're going to continue to do so. I really love the way Joe Flacco played. He was hitting Torrey Smith deep, and I think that they're going to continue to do so, and I think that they're going to win this game, and I think it's going to be 28-21 Baltimore.
I'm actually going to take New England because I think that the spread is 9, that Baltimore's getting 9 points. So once again, if you're don't encourage gambling, but if you're betting, the Falcons will cover, the Ravens will cover, but the Patriots will win. I think it's going to put about 31, maybe 31-28, something like that. Both the games are going to be very, very close.
Yeah, and that's why I said I figured they'd put 27 up. I just think the Ravens will maybe be able to do something. So again, you've been standing alone by yourself this week.
You're
if you win,
you stand alone.
You know.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with
the color
that.
Of that cheese.
That's right.
Exactly. All right, guys. That's all. Those are our picks for the week. We'll see you guys right here on the Ashley Furniture Studios, right here at TV 38 WRWR next week, where we'll hopefully be able to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl and who's going to be playing, who's not. The final couple coaching jobs in the NFL right now, who fills those positions, right here on the Sports Wrap, TV 38 WRWR. We'll see you guys next week. And we also want to make sure you guys stick around. We've got the Bob Hoffman Show, Mercer University, Bob Hoffman Men's Basketball Show coming up next right here on TV 38, your Middle Georgia sports leader. We'll be back.